Today's morning medicine is cannabis indica, which is marijuana. It's interesting. It's on the day of Thanksgiving that it comes up. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be utilizing that stuff now that it's illegal in America. And they made it legal because they're, you know, uh, regulating it, and that's one thing with homeopathy. They want to regulate it more. And when they regulate anything, now they have control of it. I know people that went to jail. Well, I don't know them, but people have gone to jail in my days for selling marijuana on the streets, and today it's legal in stores. So because it's regulated. Um, and which is a good thing on one end. On the other end, they got control of another thing, you know. And that's what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to get control of homeopathic medicine. They're saying it's an unproved medicine, so they can't be sold anymore in the U.S. They're trying to pass a law now. The Congress had stated a law that yes, homeopathic medicine is safe, effective. I don't know if they said effective, but it's safe and it can be sold in America. Now in 2017 they started to try to get a hold of that. The FDA, they got to do all these provings and that. The problem is, um, you can make a medicine yourself, so they can't really patent the medicine and sell it back to you and increase the price and control that part of you. They control our food, they control our drugs, they control our healthcare, and pretty soon I don't know what's going to happen with healthcare, but I am this is why I do this. I want people to have arm themselves for when the next whatever comes by, they would have a medicine that they could overcome the next sickness. Now, if you don't eat right, you're eating all the crap that's being sold to us, a lot of filler, a lot of junk. Even in our animals and that, there's a lot of crap being fed to us. And, we're supposed to, you know, when we eat that, now we got to get the drugs and we got to have we got to have the drugs to take care of what we ate and all that good stuff. So, you arm yourself with a little bit of homeopathic medicine, get to know it, come into my community, you can get to know it, how to utilize it. And I don't have health care. My wife don't have health care. Uh, I take care of every situation. Lately, she had a prolapsed uterus. I haven't heard that complaint anymore. She had a hernia. That's gone. What else did she have? She's got a couple other things going on. And through homeopathy, I can take care of a lot of that stuff. Now, her diet needs a change, and that's the other end of everything. What you're eating. You should be very careful what you're putting in your mouth because there's like, why do we have so much cancer? Why do we have so much of this? Well, we're getting a lot of crap fed to us. And it's sad, the standard American diet making us sick. Okay, let's get into marijuana. I get on that rampage every so often because it hurts me to see, this guy, his daughter had epileptic. Well, I guess there were seizures. He had a lot of seizures in a day, and he would run from work uh, all the way up to Canada to buy medical marijuana, bring it back, and that's the only thing that stopped their seizures. And I wanted so bad to say, "Hey, you should try this. Try this homeopathic medicine. Try it." Yeah, it just breaks my heart to see people going through all that. This poor guy was so worn out. He'd be sleeping. I'd go by. I'd go ask the guy, "Should I wake him up?" He said, "Nah, he'll make his numbers. He got to drive all the way to Canada and back, and his kids always having seizures and that." So yeah, I felt bad for the fella. But this is cannabis indica, I'm pretty sure is what he was getting. Either that one or the one tomorrow, which is a cannabis sativa. This one is marijuana. The other one is the hemp plant, and that's where we get the CBD oil. I was selling that for a while. I'm probably still part of that thing, but um, CBD oil, they say we have cannabinoid receptors in our brain and that help whether CBD oil would have helped that child or it was the cannabis that was, and that's where you got to determine which one is it that is best for them. So, the use of cannabis indica in the East as an intoxicant gives the leading note of its sphere of action. So, this is one instance of people poisoning themselves with something you can take their symptoms and write them down. Now this medicine has been proven since, and proving is we make it homeopathically, give it to a bunch of people, they get these symptoms, we write them down. But we were able to get them from people poisoning themselves in the East, uh, with cannabis sativa and cannabis indica. They are botanically identical. The difference is in their properties is solely due to the difference of soil and climate in which they are grown. That doesn't sound totally right, but depends on the soil and the climate. You can either get stuff that gets a lot of THC, or you get the hemp. And hemp we used in America for paper. It's very good for paper. They should grow a ton of hemp, make that CBD oil out of it. It's got like 0.3% THC in it. You won't get high on it, but that CBD oil does have an effect on you and helps certain situations. Or you could take it homeopathically, but we can also use that plant as a for paper products and for all kinds of different things. So rope, all that stuff, and that's what we did. We grew it up on Mount Washington here. They said it was all over the place. So cannabis indica sphere action is, let's see, the difference is a soil. Nash relates the case of a lady suffering from cardiac dropsy. Dropsy is, so she has heart uh, retaining fluid is basically what dropsy is. Pretty sure, yeah. Who, when relieved of the latter, of the cardiac dropsy, suddenly lost the power of speech. So she was like, and when I say lost the power of speech, she was, in answer to a question, she could begin a sentence but could not finish it. And if you see people that are high, they a lot of times forget, what the heck was I talking about? And she could not remember what she wished to say. She was very impatient about it, would cry, but could not finish the sentence. Though she could signify assent if anyone did finish it for her. Oh, someone would finish it and she'd remember. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Cannabis indica cured it rapidly. So this woman, whatever her situation was, and that's why I say, whatever those people that were getting high off of it, intoxicated with it, their symptoms would cure someone who had an insanity, whatever was going on, that they couldn't remember things, dementia, whatever was going on, it would help those situations. Whatever a substance will do to you physically, when you take take it physically, homeopathically, it'll cure them symptoms in any disease you see. She was very impatient about it. Okay, and in one case of overdose, the observer experienced a modification of this. This is the modification: absolute forgetfulness of thought, speech, or acts of the previous moment. So they don't remember what happened a minute ago. They'll do, what the heck was I doing? Startled by hearing, their hearing becomes very sensitive. The echo of the last word of a sentence he has just spoken reverberates. It just keeps going through. And also, they people that need indica, they can't take the rustle of papers, the rustle of linen. They can't take these small sounds, annoys them, makes them crazy. Um, having suggested, let's see, having suggested a walk to a companion and meeting him at the street door, wondered why they were there. And you see that with people that are high. Afterwards, he could remember everything. So, cannabis sativa, a lot of memory issues, a lot of things like that. And that, whatever happens to a person when they smoke the stuff, or, they get giddy and all that stuff, if you see that in like insanity or mental problems or whatever's going on with them, even if they have a cold and a flu and are very giddy and they're, hallucinating and stuff like that, belladonna is good. One that for hallucinating. I know, you have pneumonia and you see, you got a high fever, the face is flushed, and they're seeing visions or they're seeing things. In a pneumonia case or any kind of bad cold and flu, belladonna, with the flushed face and the pupils dilated and stuff like that, that would be indicated there. Cannabis indica could be another one that would be indicated for that hallucination and that. So, cannabis indica State of exaltation, time seems too long. These are all three, so they're very happy and exalted, and time seems to go on too long. Is it time yet? Or is it time to go yet? And exaggeration of time and space. So, something seems so far or something seems too close, all that kind of stuff. So the spaces and time is exaggerated, and they're very exalted. Worse from coffee, liquor, tobacco, lying on right side, and worse in the mornings. Better walking about in open air. So they went out in open air, most likely because they're having a hard time with their heart and their chest breathing and stuff like that. And better from cold water and rest. So they're very they they want cold water to keep drinking cold water. Their mouth's so dry. Uncontrollable laughter, that's a three. Hallucinations, paranoia, that's another one. Forgetful, cannot finish a sentence. Sudden loss of memory. So they are going about doing something and they forget what the heck they're doing. That could be in a lot of, that could be, like I said, in dementia, that could be in different situations like that. Throbbing in the abdomen, flatulence with headache, so a lot of gas in the belly, better by belching, by burping, and they have a distension in the abdomen. Pain across shoulders and spine, must stoop, can't walk erect, so they got to walk bent over. That's a three. Sulfur has that. A sulfur patient, someone who needs sulfur, would be walking stoop shoulder and that from the pain. This one also, cannabis indica, shoulder and spine pain, and it causes them to walk bent over. Oppression with deep labored breathing. Now there's that, need to get out in that open air. Suffocated, needs a fan. So they want air moving around because they feel like they're suffocating. Extreme sensitive to noise. That's what I was saying. Something rustles and that, it annoys them. Then little sounds will really annoy them. Buzzing, boiling, ringing, and throbbing in the ear. Weak vision. They can't see well. And it's good for glaucoma. And I know they're having, I from what I heard, some reports that they were having people smoke marijuana for the glaucoma, and it was making it better. Take cannabis and indica, save your lungs homeopathically. And you could take it in a tincture, undoubtedly. Uh, Sees objects outside of vision, so that's that hallucination. They're seeing things. Countenance is dejected, and this can be in any kind of mental problems going on. Somebody having um, uh, schizophrenia, whatever going on with them, that could help. Countenance is they look dejected. They're careworn, weary, exhausted. Probably because they're not sleeping. They're grinding their teeth and everything in their sleep. Bad dreams. Skin feels drawn tight around the face. Female menses are profuse. That's a three. They're dark, painful, but they don't clot. They're very dark, painful, but there's no clotting. Backache during menses. And a woman has threatened miscarriage and infertility. Borax for that infertility, and cannabis indica would be two you would consider. There's other ones for infertility, but these two are related in this sense with the threatened miscarriage and all that. Ravenous hunger, and that's why I say today people will be doing a lot of marijuana, going in and eating like crazy, stuffing themselves till they're sick, and I don't know, I don't understand that. I eat and I eat good, but I don't eat until I'm sick. you know, it's not good for you, basically. Crave sweets, hey, that's surprising with marijuana. Cold drinks, very thirsty, so they want cold drinks all the time. They crave sweet and they got this ravenous hunger. Feels top of head is opening and shutting in the sutures. They feel like they're opening and shutting. That's a three. Involuntary shaking of the head, and this can be in any kind of mental. Uh, I keep trying to think of the diseases, anything that, any mental stuff going on with them. Their head shakes back and forth. Migraine with loquacity, that's talkative. They have a migraine and they're very talkative and excited during this migraine. They got this migraine, but they just keep talking and they're very excited. Pulse is very slow. Digitalis, which is a remedy allopathics work use for heart problems. Calmia and apocynon Those three with the very slow pulse, along with cannabis indica, burning and scalding or, oops, sorry, pressing pain with dyspnea. So there's that pressing pain in the heart area. Chest is oppressed. They're having a hard time. Dyspnea is they can't get their breath. They want that open air and stuff. And stitches in the heart. Urine dribbles, that's a 3 after stream ceases. So, they urinate and now they got all this dribbling going on after they urinate. That's a 3. Burning and scalding or stinging in the whole urinary tract situation. That's a 3. Limbs, entire paralysis of lower limbs. That's interesting. I'm trying to think of what sickness that would be to give them total paralysis of lower limbs. That's a 3 for cannabis indica. Very exhausted after a short walk, so they can't, function. And that's probably because they're not getting the breath that they need. Weariness in limbs, stiffness, and aching in knees. So there's that, the legs are weary or they have paralysis in them. They're exhausted when they take a short walk, and they have this stiffness and aching in the knees. That could be a Russ Tox. There's a couple of them that could be with that, but Russ Tox, that stiffness is always usually a Russ Tox situation, which is poison ivy, Russ Tox. Cannabis indica. I don't know if they're in the same sort of family. I don't know. Let's see, humid asthma. So there's asthma with all this lung stuff going on. Chest oppressed with deep labored breathing. So they're really trying to get their breath. Great effort to inspire. So it really takes a lot for them to breathe in. Cough with a scraping sensation down in the lungs. Backache for the male after intercourse. So after any sex, a backache, whether they're masturbating or they're having intercourse, that backache, cannabis indica, you would consider. There's a few medicines for that, for having sex too much. And this person has increased sex desire. That's a 3. The female didn't have that. Interesting. All right, so grinds teeth in sleep. This is in the mouth. That's a 3. Of course, that should be up in sleep. Dryness of mouth and lips. That's a 3, causing them to want them very thirsty for cold drinks. Tongue is white. So, different colors of the tongue will tell you what, and this, is that white kidney? No, kidney would be yellow. White would be stomach stuff. So they got stomach issues going on. That's probably what all the flatulence and the burping and stuff going on, the farting and the burping and the distension of the stomach. That tongue being white, saying they're having, tells you that they're having, it's gastric stuff going on. Where if it was more yellow, it would be more kidney, and that dark color would be liver and bile. So there's all kinds of things. I don't want to get that deep into all this stuff on this little videos. Thick, frothy, and sticky saliva. So, I always see that that's a dry mouth. It's very sticky. Stammering and stuttering when they go to talk. Sensation in anus as if sitting on a ball. That's interesting. That's a I think I've heard a couple of medicines with that symptom. Painless yellow diarrhea. So that yellow is like an infection type of thing. It can be a kidney situation. In the breasts, nipples through chest, stitches extend through both nipples through the chest. So you got stitches across the chest into both nipples. Chronic insomnia, even though they're sleepy, and it looks like they have catalepsy, which is a trance. These people, you see people who smoke and they look like they're in a trance. They smoke marijuana. So anybody that looks like they're in a trance from any kind of brain situations, could even be an injury type of thing, and they look catatonic, you would consider cannabis indica. Pain in cardiac orifice relieved by pressure. So they want to push on their heart area. And this is, for me, I know anytime I'm full of gas because I did, eat the wrong thing or I didn't digest and right, my heart begins to hurt. So the cardiac orifice for these people have a lot of pressure. It's better they have a lot of pressure in their stomach, and the cardiac orifice is painful, and if they push on that area, it relieves it. Suffocative while eating. So when they're eating, they can't breathe. Right? It's even worse. It's suffocated. That asthma, that suffocation is worse when they're eating. Distension of the stomach and the pyloric spasms, which is the opening into the intestines from the stomach, is spasming on them. So that's where was it? Abdomen, that throbbing. That's probably the throbbing that they're feeling. Where am I at? Loss of vital heat. So they're very chilly. Chilliness is a big one for this also. Cold hands after eating. So all the blood, of course, is rushing to the stomach to digest, so their hands get cold. I'm surprised the feet aren't. Profuse, sticky sweat on forehead, face, nose, and feet. So this could be in a flu or whatever's going on with them. They're having this cold sweat, profuse, sticky sweat with that chilliness going on. Parched, and so it's a cold sweat undoubtedly, but it's on the forehead, face, nose, and feet. Parched throat, intense thirst for cold water, and they have vertigo. It's chronic, as if floating. They feel like they're floating, and that's, usual symptom of people smoking marijuana. Worse, rising. They stand up, they get dizzy quickly, with stunning pain in back of head. Very bad pain in the back of the head when they rise, and they get this vertigo, and they feel that the room is falling to pieces. So it feels like, the room's just, I don't know, being blown around, falling to pieces though. Okay, so cannabis indica, there's quite a bit with this. Cannabis indica indicates the higher faculties and stimulates the imagination to a remarkable degree. They can't think, but their imagination's great. And that's why a lot of people like to take marijuana, because of that situation. They don't have to think about all the crap in life, and now you can do that with meditation. So, but anyways, a condition of intense exaltation. They feel really good, in which all perception and conceptions, all sensation and emotions are exaggerated to the utmost degree. So it's very exaggerated senses, very exaggerated exaltation. They're laughing, they're happy, their imagination's wandering off. And that's undoubtedly why they can't think. They're trying to function and do something, and their mind just goes, wee, let's go over here and imagine this. Subconscious or dual nature state. So they can now, with this person, if they need cannabis indica, they have the good and the bad there. We got to do this, but the heck with it. They're just apparently under the control of the second self. So that's why I say there's a dual nature in there. But the original self prevents the performance of acts. So what's it say? The second self wants to do all this crazy stuff, and the original self says, nah, we better not, which are under the domination of the second self. Apparently, the two natures cannot act independently, one acting as a check upon the other. And that can be where the paranoia comes in. They're like, they want to do these things, and the other one's saying, no, you shouldn't. Cannabis indica produces a sensation of levitation. Sensation as if in a dream. Vertigo on rising with stunning pain in the back part of the head. Cannabis indica removes a vertigo in which the patient felt as if the house were falling in ruins about her. So I never heard of a vertigo that bad where it seemed like the whole house was falling down around them, but if someone had that situation just from a mental problem, a head injury, or whatever it is, you'd consider cannabis indica to overcome that. Shocks through brain on regaining consciousness. So when they get that vertigo and they pass out, they wake up and they have shocks in their brain from it. Guided by the symptom, the shocks through brain when coming to, guided by that symptom, Clark, a good homeopath, removed with this remedy a noise like a crash or explosion during sleep. So person obviously wakes up and they say, man, it was like there was a crash or something falling, and he used the thing that the situation where the house feels like it's falling around on him, so there would be crashes and booms. He used that particular symptom from the medicine and matched it to a symptom of a lady who was having this vertigo or this unconsciousness and wakened, like there's an explosion. So he used that symptom from the medicine, got the a situation, a lady who had that situation said that was going on with her, and he cured it with it. Sensation is a brain boiling over. I hope I explained that well. Over and lifting cranial arch like a lid opening and shutting sensation. So the up on the top of the head, it feels like something's opening and shutting up there. Weight at occiput on the back of the head. There's a weight from which pains start up sides of head to temple and vertex. So it's going up the back of the head to the temple and to the top of the head. Headache with flatulence, so a lot of gas with the headache. So I always say, what do you have? Where is this headache coming from? Is it a gastric headache? Is it a headache from the lungs, from the, liver problems, kidney problems? What's it coming from? Last until flatus can be passed. So the headache goes away once they start farting up a storm. Or burping up or down. The flatus can be passed up or down, either burping or farting. Throbbing of occiput. So there's a throbbing pain in the head. Scalp is sore feeling, crawling on vertex. Sensation as though skin tightly stretched over bones of face. That's a symptom that is unusual, I think, to this one. The urinary and generative organs are very strongly affected. So the sex organs and the urinary organs. There is constant dull pain in region of right kidney. Pains in kidneys when laughing. Urine loaded with slimy mucus after exposure to damp and cold. So obviously this Cannabis indica doesn't like cold, damp weather. Frequent urination. I just went through that, man. My arm was killing me after that last storm went by. I'm taking Bellus Perennis now to see if that will overcome it, but I need to find a remedy that brings out the joint pains during stormy, cold, damp weather. I'm going to do it too soon. Frequent urination with burning pains in evening, dribbling, urging, and straining. So they have burning pains with their urination, but at the end of urination, they dribble a lot. Urging and straining, but cannot pass a drop. So they're either urinating and with dribbling at the end, or they can't go. They're obviously having bladder or kidney problems, and they can't pass a drop. Burning and scalding or stinging in urethra. Now, when I hear stinging, I think of apis, burning arsenicum and cantharis. Cantharis is a big kidney remedy. So those are the kind of remedies I think of whenever, even stinging could be Urtica urens, which is nettle. In urethra, this burning, scalding, stinging in urethra before, during, and after urination. So they got that burning, stinging, that going on the whole time. Increased sexual desire, setiaresis, priapism. Priapism is long erections that last a long time. Satyriasis, I forget what that is. Erections while riding, walking, or sitting. Still, not caused by amorous thoughts. So this person doesn't have amorous thoughts. It just happens. Violent, painful gonorrhea without pain. Violent and painful erections. These erections are violent and painful. If you're thinking about the blue pill, you might want to think cannabis indica for your erections. And if you have one that's always bugging you, you might think the same thing. Without pain, with a very profuse gonorrhea without pain, with a very profuse yellowish white discharge from the penis or the vagina or wherever, feeling as if discharge in urethra. So that might be the burning and all that going on too from this gonorrhea stuff. And Cordy. Cordy is bent penis, which they're calling Peyronie's disease. That was in the last one too, I think. Very profuse, painful, dark menstruation, but without clots. So they're having very dark menstrual cycle with no clots. And it's painful. Palpitations awakens from sleep. Those are palpitations. I would think of the heart. Stitches in heart with oppression. Better deep breathing. Warmth of spine extended to the head. Backache worse during menses. So there's that dysmenorrhea. No, not the Nah, I forget. Anyways, they got painful menses that are dark and no clotting and all that kind of stuff with a backache, which occur every 2 weeks and are scanty. So that backache, they get these menses. Now it can either be that dark stuff or it could be very scanty and little, and it comes on every 2 weeks. So they obviously need their menses adjusted, and you would go back to puberty. Did something happen during puberty? Went on back there that you may have PMS going on. You may have, who knows what's going on. Paralysis of lower limbs and right arm, because there's a lot of medicines for painful menses with backache. This dark would lead you to this one with dark menses. Scanty menses, there's a few of them medicines that have that. In paralysis, there is tingling of the affected parts. So any lower limbs being paralyzed, there's still that tingling going on. The sensitiveness to noise is extreme, can hear a whisper in an adjoining room, and is irritated by it. In some subjects, perfect conditions of catalepsy is produced. So they're just like catatonic, basically. They're not moving, they're not reacting to anything. Cannabis indica, like belladonna, wants to sleep but cannot. Very sleepy. During sleep, they have startings, they jump up, they wake up, talking, grinding, teeth, and nightmares. So you'd think of belladonna or cannabis indica when they're not sleeping and all that. So let's see. I wanted to get into this a little bit. Anahalon, which is another medicine, time sense disordered. What is cannabis sativa in extreme sensitive to noise? So that's the one I'm going over tomorrow. Nitric acid to jarring and rumbling of wagon and street. They're sensitive to that. Coffea to all sounds. Borax for slightest noise. These are the medicines you would consider in these different situations. Coffea to all sounds. Borax to slightest noise. Fall of door latch, rumbling of paper, rustling of silk, all these things you'd consider borax and cannabis indica. I forget what that medicine is, to stretching of linen or silk, or even the thought of it, even the thought of that, anybody messing with silk. Levitation, asparagus again, calcarea, cocculus, phosphoric acid, silica, strychnia, sulfur, and thuja for that levitation feeling. As if in a dream, ambrosia, anacardia, calcarb, conium, cupromed, Mederinum, Rheum, all these medicines. So horror of darkness, Barc, noise like a crash or explosion in the head, aloe vera, and cannabis indica. So tomorrow's cannabis sativa, which is the hemp plant. Today's was cannabis indica, which is the marijuana plant. So join me tomorrow to see what sativa is good for. Probably a lot of the same things, but there's probably some uh, differences there. So, all right, that's morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old. And don't forget, it's Thanksgiving, which is be grateful. What are you grateful for today? That's why I always like to ask people, what's going well with you today? Because everybody knows about complaining and what's wrong. When you say that, they have to stop and think, yeah, what is going well? What is right with me? What is good for me today? So try to remember daily, not just today, but every day, what to be thankful for. All right, be thankful.